But when you franchise, what you've done essentially is you've created an entirely different business. Like
Mhm.
they have nothing to do with each other. The biggest misconception is I have a great business and I'm just going to franchise it and, it'll be, the world's greatest thing, or it'll be the next Orange Theory or the next Pizza Hut or, whatever. You can go down the list of the big brands.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Ben Woodruff. He's the Co-CEO at Woops Macarons and Gifting. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kelsey, what's up? Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Ben, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm the co-CEO of Woops Macarons and Gifting. We are a young emerging franchise brand based out of New York City. We specialize in the best French macarons in the world and also amazing customizable gifts to go along with those macarons. We have currently 28 retail locations nationwide. We had grown the brand to around 52 locations. And unfortunately, we're in not a great position during 2020 and the COVID years with a lot of our locations being in malls. But we fortunately survived, which I think a lot of companies in our seat did not do.
Mhm.
And we are thriving now and we are growing again. And we've gotten our financials back in order and we are growing through franchising again. So excited to talk more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about how you first got interested kind of in Woops in the business space.
Yeah, I came in actually very early, just after some of the original co-founders. We had our first original location in Bryant Park here in New York City, which we're based in, as the holiday market and the winter village there. We sold roughly $250,000 of macarons in about 6 weeks the first year. So Woops, we have a business, is where the name spawned from, which is kind of cute and whimsical. And always an interesting talking point is our name. So we feel like it's working for us. But I came in just a couple years after that. We had garnered like a lot of attention that first year from malls around the New York City, tri-state area. And we started going in malls and opening a couple of locations. We opened a couple inline stores. And then I guess right around 2014, we started in 2012. We started to further our growth through franchising. So my background is financing and franchise development. And I had recently, or was in the process of leaving a corporate development job in the franchise space to start my own consulting company. And ironically enough, Woops was my first client. And I won't take you through the whole story, but we franchised in 2015. Or I guess I'll take you to the story, but kind of high level. And we started awarding franchise licenses in 2016, and it went really quick. We started opening a lot of locations. During that consulting time, I became a franchisee of the brand as well.
Mhm.
So I was owning, and I was living in Atlanta metro area at the time. I'm now in New York, but owned and operated 3 locations myself as a franchisee. And as my consulting role was helping grow franchise development and then also helping with franchise operations. So was assisting to go open locations. So if we awarded a license in California, we'd fly out, train the franchisee, open the location. So we had like a really crazy, 3 years or so there between 16 and 19, where we went from, a handful of locations here in New York to 52, So, as things progressed, my time was getting more important on the franchisor side. So exited my franchisee location, sold them successfully, and then moved on to further my role on the franchisor side of the fence. Invested a little bit of money in the brand, and then I guess it was 2000 in COVID, 2020 and end of the year, beginning of 21. partnership group promoted me to co-CEO, and had an opportunity and the challenge to take the brand kind of through that whole mess, which was very challenging and difficult, but I think we learned a lot. I think we're in a better position now. I think all the typical things you hear for companies that were in a tough spot that made it through.
Yeah.
And 2023, we're here. We're in franchise development. We're opening locations, and we're excited to continue growing the brand throughout the U.S. And we've become the largest retailer of French macarons in the U.S. as well. So it's pretty exciting time for us.
Yeah. So besides having a wonderful product, kind of talk to me about how, you've been able to grow. And like you said, whoops, it happened pretty fast, it sounds like.
Scaling a business is always super hard. What do I do? What do I don't do? Where do I spend my time? And at the end of the day, you've got to grow revenue. That's the most important thing. And then once you start growing revenue, which we did very successfully through franchising, you've got to scale, hire, and train and trust people to fulfill their roles as best they can. So for us, it was growing revenue, bringing the right people in. I think the term in our business society culture is way overused, but I will tell you, we have one of the best cultures of anywhere I've ever been. And I would stack it up next to no one as far as the people we have on our team. How do they enjoy their position? Do they like working with us? So that's been a big part of scale as well. When you can create that sort of safe place, and everybody feels like they can be comfortable and feels like they can have autonomy and feels like they can grow in their role. That's a huge part of growth and scale. And if you don't have those things, it's very hard to do.
Yeah. So kind of diving a little bit deeper into scaling and franchising, what do you think the biggest misconception about, scaling a business and then, turning into a franchise is?
So I think it's a good question. I would say it's just the challenge in franchising is the replication of the business, right? You have a great business, whatever it is, you make awesome pizzas, or
make great macarons.
You can make great macarons and whatever. And you as a business owner, pre getting into a franchise system or turning it into a franchise system, you're like, oh, this business works great. I've got 2 locations. I'm killing it. I should just franchise this thing and I'll be off to the races, right? But when you franchise, what you've done essentially is you've created an entirely different business. They have nothing to do with each other. French macarons and our retail business has nothing to do with franchise business. Franchise business is about building processes, building systems, building training, building franchisee support, building marketing, building sales. So you have to in what you see in the franchise industry, especially for franchise development or franchisor brands, the parent brand, you see a lot of consulting groups. And the reason is it's because it's so challenging to go through that whole process that many times founders or CEOs or partners in brands will outsource that piece because it's just a totally different thing than they've ever done before, and it's very complex, and there's legality and all this other stuff. So I'd say the biggest misconception is I have a great business and I'm just going to franchise it, and it'll be the world's greatest thing, or it'll be the next Orange Theory or the next Pizza Hut, or whatever. You can go down the list of the big brands. So
Interesting. And I think that's great insight as well. Kind of, I hadn't really thought about it, the difference in the two, because it is, you're 100% right. It's 2 different businesses.
Yeah.
Interesting. So kind of going back to Woops, is there a certain kind of client profile? I know you said you started in New York and now you've got 28 locations. Talk to me a little bit about kind of the ideal client profile of who, do you have one of who tends to buy Woops?
As far as the consumer profile, it's mostly women, between the ages of 30 to 50. But I'll tell you, the way we've constructed the business is in the retail setting, we have great retail sales associates, and they do an awesome job with sampling and have you had a macaron, and let me take you on a flavor journey. So I'll tell you that, like, if you get the product in somebody's mouth, everybody is like target consumer almost, men, children, young ladies, women of all ages. But I would say, like, our for sure our core consumer is kind of that,
Yeah.
middle-aged woman, between 30 and 50.
Interesting. So if, we're kind of, as we wrap up this podcast, a little bit more about Woops, is there one thing that you would want to leave our listeners with, either, about Woops as a company, kind of going through COVID as the co-CEO, that journey for you, or, franchising? Is there anything you would want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, I would say, in franchising, everybody's like, is it a recession-proof business? Like, that's like the catchy thing that, that is in the marketing stuff and whatever. And what I'll say is we are a COVID pandemic-proof business now. So I think that's like the next level. We do have a pretty amazing corporate gifting component to our business. So when we went through COVID, us as owners, like, we just started calling companies and selling corporate gifting. So there's ways to, continue to grow your business outside of a retail setting. So from, like, just a franchise opportunity perspective, I think that's very exciting for someone coming in, investing their money, having a little bit of peace of mind that, this retail thing or whatever insane thing is coming next. There might be a way to navigate around it, and we've proven that, it certainly does work. The other thing I will tell you definitively, and we've tried almost all of them, we have the best macarons in the world, next to nobody. So that's exciting. We're, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, the largest retailer of French macarons in the US. We plan to continue to grow that and continue to expand. And, hopefully we'll be the largest, retailer of macarons in the world at some point, which is the ultimate goal. So we're pretty excited about the next few years for sure.
That's fantastic. Those are great goals to have. And I certainly, with the business model that you have, it sounds like there's great leadership, kind of with a goal-oriented vision that, is setting Woops up for success.
Yep, absolutely. Goals and numbers.
Goals and numbers.
They drive everything. Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. Well, Ben, this has been a really great conversation about Woops, about franchising, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be on Business Ninjas today.
Awesome. No, thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely.